And hello again, fourth and long fans. It's your AFL correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess here with another interview going across the states trying to find different fans of the AFL. And today we have Mr. John Hamilton. John, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Donnie. How are you?
I am not doing too bad. Again, Iowa to Arizona. They talk about two different places when it comes to weather, but that's not what we're here for. So it's good to meet you, sir. And so if, I thought we'd start off with kind of like a little bit about who is John Hamilton.
Well, I'm relatively new to the sport. It was brought to my attention in 2016. Um, but before then, I guess getting back to who I am, did some time in the army. About 5.5 years, times in law enforcement, and then left law enforcement, went back to college, and I work in aviation. Lived most of my life in Texas, and I recently transferred from the Houston area out to Tucson because I work in aviation and I wanted to work in a tower. So Tucson was available. Well, here I am. Of course, Australian rules football is now my favorite sport, followed closely by ice hockey. I love the outdoors. I like fantasy novels. I recently got back into playing video games, one of the fantasy RPGs. I think I've probably put in close to 1,000 hours with Skyrim because it's such an awesome game. Um, and of course, I've been sitting here twiddling my thumbs. With the quarantine, I haven't been called into work because uh, by the time I transferred out here, it was considered non-essential. So I was glad to talk footy with someone.
Always nice, always nice. So you kind of previewed it. So how did you find footy and where?
Actually, it was after I left college. I was actually waiting to go to a training course for the job I have now, and my friend Derek Govier, I met him actually a long time ago, back in 2012, when we were both living in the Bryan College Station area of Texas. It wasn't then that he introduced me to the sport, but he had actually taken a trip to Australia and ended up going to a game, not knowing what it was, and he fell in love with the game after attending a live AFL match. And it wasn't until, like I said, 2016, towards the end of that season, that he introduced me to the sport. I was a little hesitant at first because I watched a video online. Min Lee, he has actually a great YouTube channel explaining many different sports across the world. And I watched the video, and I was just kind of overwhelmed by it at first because it looked so chaotic, like there was no method to the madness. But he actually, he convinced me to, sit down and watch it. He let me use his AFL login so I could watch a few games. And he told me different terms, and he told me what to look for. And he explained the rules as it went along. So that actually helped cement my love with the sport because someone was actually there to, like, sit and, walk me through it, tell me everything that goes on. And once I learned the rules and watched it, it actually became a very, in my opinion, simple sport to watch and cheer for.
Awesome, awesome. It's quite interesting that somebody gets to it, and it just there's all sorts of stories, and no matter who you talk to, never there's very rarely do you see two people that have the same story when it comes to how they got into footy. But I mean, so he learns it in Australia. That's awesome. So for some of the people that are watching the YouTube version of this, they're already going to kind of know what team you support. But for the ones who are just listening to the podcast, who is your club?
Adelaide Crows.
Adelaide Crows supporter.
Yeah.
All righty. Um, Definitely a very interesting year for you, sir. I would have to say.
Oh yeah, it's 2020. Season 2020 was very rough. Yeah, I will admit that. It was kind of, you know at times depressing just because we're going through a rebuild. Nothing seemed to be working. Matthew Nix, the new head coach that took over from Don Pike, he had a big mess to clean up, and he's trying hard. He's working through it. Trying to find something that finally works. And I'm not going to jump ship, so I'm going to stick with it. And I think with Matthew Nix, I see good things in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, I think Matty Nix he kind of came into a little bit of a fun little storm there, but I think towards the end of the season he really started to get his boys going, and I think Adelaide's going to be one of those clubs that if they can continue a little bit off of the end of last year's success, I definitely think they're going to be a team that's going to surprise a few people this year. So So you said you stayed on with them after a wooden spoon year, which is not something normal. So how would you consider your fandom to the Crows? I mean, are you one that you occasionally catch the game? Are you a diehard, like you're up at 2 a.m. to watch the games? Are you kind of somewhere in the between? You catch them if you can. If you don't, you at least try to catch the highlights.
I try to catch them if I can. Like I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan. I'm definitely not a casual fan. I'd say maybe in between, like a question you asked last time. I'm kind of in between a fan of the game and diehard. I like watching the games. I catch them if I can. I usually rewatch them if I can't watch them live. It's just a problem, with the time difference. It's hard to catch games live. So I will rewatch games if I can. Like I said, watch them live. And I'm not so diehard that I can't recognize fault within my own club. I'm not one to blame the umpires if things aren't going our way.
Not an ump screamer. I like that. I think that's a little bit too much of. Got to blame the refs if something isn't going your way and all that. So going off that, I mean, I got to ask, who's your favorite Crow currently? And then have you kind of dove into the history, and are there some old timey Crows that you're like that are your favorite?
Well, currently, Taylor Walker is my favorite Crow. And I was very proud of him to surpass Tony Madra as the club's all-time leading goal kicker. Um, as far as diving into the history of the club, I haven't gotten into the history as much, but I do know some names like Mark Rasciuto. I think a lot of people know Mark Rasciuto because he does a lot of commentary. He was from the Premiership sides back in '97 and '98. Of course, Tony Madra and Andrew McLeod are probably the only old timey Crows. Like, the club was only started in 1990, so I guess they're the only as close to old timey as you can come up with at this point. But those are the big three.
Awesome,
And,
awesome. I gotta ask you, um, Eddie Betts. Do you think he should be known more for his time as a Crow or more for his time as a Blue, or should it be kind of a combination of both?
I think it should be a combination of both because he's done some good things with Carlton and Adelaide. He is the reason why I chose Adelaide as my club. It was one of the things when I was watching some of the old games back in 2016. I didn't know at the time that you could actually, as long as you keep the ball in bounds, you could actually step out of bounds. Because I'm used to seeing, of course, with gridiron football, your foot steps out of bounds even if the ball is in bounds. That play is blown dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't realize that you could keep play alive as long as you kept the ball in the field of play. So when I saw his 2016 goal of the year, I was just kind of blown away. I was just like, wow, that's insane. That's pretty cool. And I went back and watched a few highlight videos, and I was like, yeah, okay, Adelaide is my team. And it just kind of clicked. I can't really explain how. I guess I just did explain how, but it just kind of clicked, and that's the reason why I just decided to support this club.
Yeah, in Eddie's pocket, in all of so many of his great goals from the pockets and different stuff like that at Adelaide Oval, and I have to admit it's one of those that outside of the SCG for me with Sydney, I always love watching games at the old Adelaide Oval. It's just such an awesome ground with the old school scoreboard and everything like that. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, I know this last season was rough, but I mean, did you start to see some of the change this year? Do you think you're on the right track, or are you still kind of iffy on whether next year will be another hard season to kind of be a Crows fan?
I'm leaning more towards it's going to be another hard season because Matthew, like after reading some articles online about the absolute mess that was the 2018 training camp, that came after the 2017 grand final loss to Richmond, about all the crazy stuff that went on then. I think it's going to be better. I don't think we're going to finish at the bottom of the ladder next year, but I don't necessarily see us making finals. I think we still got a lot of work to do. I think we're on the right trajectory. It just, like I said, it's not going to be a miracle overnight fix.
Not going to be the Richmond Tigers from 13th to the playoffs and then to the grand final 2 years later.
Yeah, it's not going to be that.
No, that's always kind of interesting. So after the season, so now we're in the middle of the off season. We're getting closer and closer to the draft. For the draft coming up later on this week, as time of recording. have you been keeping an eye on the off season? I mean, have you looked into any of the draft picks? Do you think number one, or is there anybody that catches your eye? I mean, what's your kind of thoughts on that?
With any sport, really, I've never been one to really follow the draft. So, completely honest here, I haven't been keeping up with the draft in the off season all that much. I catch little bits of news here and there when I follow their social media accounts, but I haven't, dug too deep into potential draft picks.
Okay, and that's not a problem. I mean, everybody is a little bit different, but it's less is safe to say there's three really big forwards, including a South Australian in Phil Thorpe, that I think Adelaide's got their eyes on. But the biggest question will be is, do they mess with the Western Bulldogs and put in a bid for Ugle Hagen, their number one, who's an academy pick, which would then force the Western Bulldogs to match, which I don't know how much you've went into the father son and the academy stuff. I know I talked a little bit about it last time, but it could be something. I've heard talks that they may put in a bid just to see if Western will match, which every indication that I have read that they will match. But Phil Thorpe, the South Australian big forward kind of combo ruck is really high on some people's lists. It just kind of depends on who you see. So if just a little tidbit of information if you wanted to there. Um,
Definitely something I'll look into now.
yeah, definitely. And like I said, the Draft Central one, I know I tweeted it. I can, if you want me to, I can probably find a way to copy that link and send it to you via Facebook Messenger if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, I would like that.
Awesome. Okay. And then so we already kind of talked about the off season. Now here's the cool thing about this is you go from one extreme to the other. Is do you keep an eye on the AFLW at all?
I do actually.
Okay.
I do. Like I enjoyed watching their win their premierships in 2017 and 2019, and I follow a few of their AFLW players' social media accounts. So um, I do still enjoy this. I don't find it as exciting as the regular AFL, but I do like the sport, so I still watch it.
Awesome. Any favorite players on the team?
Oh, Aaron Phillips,
Kind of hard not
probably
to go
I
with
think
that
is
one, right?
the one that everybody knows. Um, let's see. I say she's probably my favorite player on the women's squad.
Good, good to hear. Now from that, and this is open to anything. I mean, what's a favorite game of yours that you've ever seen, whether it's a Crows game, whether it's anything? I mean, what's a favorite game that you've ever watched?
See, I'd probably be Eddie Betts' 300 game against Gold Coast because last year, it was not as bad as this past year in 2020, but there's a lot. They were plagued by inconsistency, and that was before all that information started coming to light about that infamous training camp. And there's a lot of inconsistency. But then in his 300th game, he booted 6 goals against Gold Coast, and they were the Crows that I was used to seeing in 2017 and 2016. 2018 was a very inconsistent year as well, but he had such a good game. It's such a joy to watch, and like I said, it was the Crows that I was used to seeing, so it was a really good feeling.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's pretty much all I have. Is there anything else you'd like, anything else footy you'd like to chat about, or I think we can wrap it up. It's up to you.
I'll just if anyone out here watching this is from the Tucson area and wants to maybe have a kick after this pandemic is more under control, hit me up. We could always get together, have a kick. I don't know if we'd go as far as starting our own USAFL club, but if I have if I have the time and I feel that I'm in shape enough, yeah, maybe I'll be open to discussions.
Definitely, definitely. We'll definitely make sure to put that out on some of the Facebook Messenger groups and everything like that. But that is all I have. So, John, thank you so much for coming on as our Adelaide Crows supporter. I wish your Crows nothing but success this year. Hopefully, a little bit better than the wooden spoon that year, but unfortunately, somebody's got to win it. Hopefully, it's not your Crows next year. And I can't wait for the
Yeah,
AFLW season. Hopefully, Erin Phillips is back to her usual brilliant self and can lead the Crows on to maybe a third title in 4 years. I guess we'll have to see.
yeah. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the talk. Have a good day, and hopefully, yeah, 2021 will be a better year for both the women's and men's squads.
Alrighty, and that's been my interview with John. You all have a great day.